The only way we'll know when and at what targets the nuclear button will be pressed is by electronic espionage. That's what makes it so appalling that Dodgson, a self-confessed and convicted Soviet agent, was able to hold a position of trust here for 10 years. It must not happen again. Each of you, not only section heads, but each and every one of you has simply got to report oddities of behavior among your colleagues. Strange events or anything else that strikes you as out of the ordinary. It's not only your jobs that are at risk. It's the survival of the free world.
Russians for 10 years.
Yes.
Did you watch kitty porn videos with Stephen Ketch?
Yes.
Does the photograph that I just showed you contain Alan Goodburn?
Yes.
Did you sometimes see him socially with his wife, Cynthia?
Get this thing off me!
Mr. Dawson, you've already told me this machine is no better than a fortune-telling affair. I mean, if it's junk, what's your problem? Are you anti-black or just anti-American?
A lot of people detest your country and all it stands for. In England, that's not yet a crime.
I think we have a problem.
Your trial was painful to us, Dodgson. We don't forgive you for making us look foolish and for putting another wedge between us and our good friends. You're here to answer yes or no to our friends' questions. Yes or no. And get on with it.
We'll have to start all over again. Sit real still.
Keep your eyes on the ball. Your friend Kedge fell under a train.
Looks as though they've taken the bait.
As soon as we're sure they've bitten on Goodburn, I'll let you know. Take the pills that evening.
Check. And meat.
Tickets, please. Thanks, sir. Cheltenham next stop, sir. Thank you. Any more tickets now, please?
Train on platform 2 is the 12:10 from London Paddington. This is Cheltenham Spar, Cheltenham Spar. Train will be leaving in 5 minutes, 12:15 for Gloucester, Stroud, Kemble, and London Paddington.
Dad? Bob! We shouldn't have bothered. Someone coming I particularly want you to meet. A girl, eh?
It's about time.
Two of them, actually. Two?
PV.
PV?
To do with security, darling. Positive vetting.
Yeah, PV.
PV? It sounds rude.
It's all in your mind.
No, she's quite right. It is rude. I speak as one who's being PV'd at the moment. It's routine.
Known in the trade as the quinquennial review.
Yeah, we are PV'd by IOs, Tiffany. Now, an IO is not, as you may think, an intelligence officer, and still less an intelligent officer. He's, in fact, an investigating officer. See, if something dodgy happens, like someone with the same name turns up at a peace rally, then our case is referred to an HEOPVA, who is in all his glory a higher executive officer, positive vetting. Assessor, how dare you say that?
Should you be talking like this? I mean the Official Secrets Act and all that.
No, you're quite right, Dad. We should not. It is, after all, a method devised to enable people like Dodgson to get away with it for years.
Well, that's not quite fair. Dodgson's very clever.
This isn't the Soviet Union.
Yeah, timely reminder. Right.
Oh, look, isn't Tiger beautiful?
Tiger?
Beautiful.
You know that cat? He's abnormal. He gets himself right down there, then he can't get himself back up again, then he howls and he howls. And who do you think the lucky citizen is who has to get up at 4 in the morning to let him in? Me! Come on, come here, you little monster. Yes, look at you. Mwah. No, I somehow think if I could assemble a cat-like ladder, then he could get his own way back. Hmm?
It's nearly 30 feet.
I'm going to phone for a taxi to take me to the station.
We ought to wash up lunch.
Okay.
You too, Mark.
Bossy cow.
Bob.
Hmm?
I told Alan.
How did he take it?
Terrible.
Make it in about an hour, could you? Fine. Thank you.
Second thoughts.
No, of course not. I just wish we didn't have to hurt anyone else.
Bob, you fancy a walk?
Yeah, sure. And then again, no. No, sorry, I want to have a word with you, so let's go. Oh, God. So clumsy, it's bloody ridiculous.
You intend to chap the job, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, it's a bit complicated.
Yes, I thought it would be.
Don't be so aggressive, Dad. It's not very helpful. In an odd way, this Dodgson business focused how I feel.
I wondered if you knew him when I read about the trial.
You know, there are 7,000 of us working at GCHQ. It's an industry. Ordinary. Accepted. I didn't even know Dodgson by sight. The net result is the business of informing on one another has now become respectable. All of us are encouraged to report anything that strikes us odd about our colleagues. I mean, can you imagine what it's like to be at the mercy of a secret report, you know, from someone you're living with or working with?
Is that what's happening, Bob? Someone informed on you. You're being asked to resign.
No way. I'm not being judged. It's the other way around. The security people had egg all over their faces. For 10 years he got away with it. And then there are the lies. They start the very first day. Nobody's what they seem. Nothing is what it's made out to be. And you never realize till later, years later in my case, that from the very first day, the truth recedes.
Don't forget, what they do in that department is necessary.
That's a fatal argument, Dad.
It's common sense. What you need is a posting or a holiday. Take one or the other, but for God's sake, don't throw away 6 years of seniority.
God, there's more to life.
Listen, you bloody well listen to me. When I came out after 12 years, it was no joke making a living. And it's taken me over 20 years since then to find my way. And it's still very dodgy. Cleverer men than me go bankrupt every day. Times are bad and getting worse. Let's face it, you're not a computer man or an engineer or a doctor. You're a linguist. Who needs them?
We can have an argument.
I shouldn't be surprised.
Tea?
All right.
Okay.
Ta-da!
Oh!
Surprise!
Happy birthday!
Oh, that's really kind.
Oh, really? We couldn't do the honours with the cake without you.
No, of course not. Right. Look at that. I'll blow them out?
Mm-hmm.
Right. 1, 2, 3.
Don't forget to wish.
No, I won't.
Is everything all right?
Yeah, sure.
Your room, Bob. Master's is even more of a tip than mine. Would you like us to tidy it?
No. Not at any price. I'd never find anything, would I? Hmm? Now, I know it may look a bit chaotic, but...
It surely does.
But basically, it's very clean.
And it is his room.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I didn't mean to.
Well, I'm going to watch television with Mark and Rose.
All right. Luck okay.
Yeah. Yeah, look, bribe them.
See you later.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Sit down, Dad. tea.
Thank you.
Listen, it seems to me that underneath ordinary life... God, it's so hard to put this clearly. Underneath the commonplace, buses in the street, newspapers, cricket scores, and paying the bloody mortgage, underneath all of that, there is another, an entirely secret world. Now, the people who run it, thousands of them, appear to live in the light, but they don't. And I don't. You see, every day, or nearly every day, I go to this place to translate surprising, sometimes terrifying, and occasionally appalling.
Is that he's not a serious risk, but naturally we'll keep him covered.
Bobby, he's not back yet.
You go in, darling, and I'll put the car away.
So either I'm mad, or somebody killed Alan and faked it to look like suicide. Why on earth should they do that? Well, he knew Dodgson, right? Now, just suppose Alan was mixed up in what he was doing. The last thing the security people want is another scandal.
Christ, Bob, you don't seriously think they'd go to those lengths?
I don't know. I don't even know who to ask. I thought you might have a bright idea.
Not off the top of my head. I mean, let me think about it.
Fancy a beer?
Thanks. There's a panic on to calculate the track of this new piece of spacemongery the Russians have just put up.
Yeah. Well, some other time then.
Sure.
Sorry.
Good morning. Good morning. You have slept like a hero. The woman will make you the bacon and eggs now.
Morning. Alex, it is Alex, isn't it?
Correct. Ah, you remember my name. Yes, it is morning. To tell you the truth, it is afternoon.
Something familiar about this place.
It was here that you met your controller when he came over in '83.
That's right.
Do you remember? We smuggled you in and out in the bottom of the school bus.
Russian territory in England. That appeals to me.
It is amusing, yes? But you must on no account touch the curtains. Outside, the British are like crazy men, trying to find you before the press learn of your escape. When they do, there will be the most enormous outcry. We do not believe that the British security services know you came here before. But we must assume that you will have all our properties under surveillance with long-lens cameras. You must stay low.
This chap tried to recruit me. I couldn't tell you before. He used to be a proper tearaway, ripping up the telephone directories, taking the tops off bottles with his teeth. Can't imagine what made him think I could get into all that. Anyway, he'll see you. I've got his address in the car.
Morning, I guess. Frank! Oh, Lord!
Charlie Craig, as I live and breathe. I couldn't believe it when you called. What's your poison?
No. This is my treat. Harry Pinkers?
What else, Commander?
Yeah. Save for me and make them large ones, will you? Let's sit down at that.
Well, this is a turn-up for the book.
Yeah, it's been a few years.
Mm-hmm. The only pilot who really enjoyed the rocket takeoff when the catapult fell. We all said we did, but you meant it, you mad sod.
Well, we were younger in those days. And I seem to remember you blowing your commission in no uncertain terms, taking a swing at that chief petty officer, because you thought he was a bully.
Well, it was too. CPO Pratt. Pratt by name and Pratt by nature.
Oh, I know. All the same, I couldn't have spent my life savings on that kind of gesture.
Well, I wasn't into promotion like you were. HMS Hawk, white band round your cap. Thank you. No dipping your biscuits in your tea.
It was the only way a rating pilot could crash the class barrier.
Yeah, well, as you said. In those days, we were younger. Thank you. Just when we thought we got Civvy Street squared away, Kathy developed this lump. Wasn't much to speak of. Turned out to be cancer.
Dear old boy.
At least he went quickly. There didn't seem to be much point in going on for a while, especially since my son wasn't interested in the business.
That's right, of course you had a boy, didn't you?
Yeah, Bob. Apple of his mother's eye. Mine too, come to that. You wouldn't want to share a cabin with him.
What, untidy?
Shambolical.
What's he doing now?
He's a Russian language specialist at GCHQ.
Bright boy, then.
A bit too bright for his own good. More brains than sense, you know what I mean? No, that's not quite fair, but I went down there the other day for his birthday. And number one, he's got himself mixed up with a married woman with a kid. And on top of that, he's talking about leaving the job. He's got it in his head that what the Russians are doing in that line of country is not a lot different from what we do.
Student talk.
He's 28.
Well, it's just the time for, pulling the old man's beard.
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, he shouted the odds from time to time. We all did, but he went for the quiet life at the end of the day. He'd run a mile rather than risk trouble.
Not like you, then?
No. Takes after his mother, thank God.
Well, that's nice.
What about you? Don't tell me that none of those eager wrens ever managed to drag you to the altar.
You know what they say, safety in numbers.
The last time I heard of you, you joined the Cloak and Dagger Brigade. Still at it, are you?
Retired. Insofar as they ever let you retire, still. They've set me up with a nice little sideline. Vetting firms to make sure they're kosher. Which, not to beat about the bush, is why I'm here. A little bird told me that you've been supplying some fair-sized outlets lately. Satisfied customers, one and all. Now, there's a government department, no names, no pectoral, on the brink of elbowing their quill pens in favor of word processors. It's not a contemptible contract, so, always provided your beamish boy isn't seriously intent on upsetting the apple cart. Thank you. It's yours.
I'm sorry. This just feels all wrong.
Well, you wouldn't let me come to your place. Would you, Bob?
Because if I'm not under surveillance, I bloody well should be. It's not funny.
Not laughing at you.
No?
It's just the thought of some SAS type trying to recruit Mark.
It's a pretty bizarre idea, isn't it? Rose, well...
Oh, yes, Rose. I can just see her laying someone out with her hands. Do you really have to go and see that man Mark put you onto?
Yes, I do. It's not just going to go away, you know.
Hello, Maroon.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Is it wise to smoke on top of all that brandy?
You think I've been on the town with the lads, right?
Dead right.
Well, in fact, thanks to my service connections and a willingness to risk liver and lungs, we are in the running for a government contract.
That's fantastic, Frank.
Yes, and if we get it right this time, there's plenty more where they came from. Any messages?
The bank.
Oh, on the strength of this, I can face even them.
Oh, and Bob called. Could you phone him? Something about meeting him in Gloucester.
Gloucester?
Yeah, I'm sorry to drag you all this way, Dad, but I think I'm getting close to something that makes my original misgivings about GCHQ seem like pleasant dreams. Now, look, to understand this, you've got to remember what the American secret world has been doing for years. And I don't just mean in the way of secret ways, secret coups, but in burglary, bribery, blackmail, drug trafficking all over the world. Yeah, plain old-fashioned murder. I mean, Watergate proved the extent. These people can work against their own people.
And that was the end of it.
No, they just pushed it further underground. I mean, we could never have a Watergate in this country. Our secret world is beyond the law. Which brings me back to what I was saying. GCHQ Children is hugely funded by and totally integrated with the Americans. Now, you don't believe we don't do anything they do?
All right. I don't know what you know, and I don't read what you read. But I do know that no one in his right mind risks a secure job these days. You do have the right to give it up. So for God's sake, leave it at that. Resign and walk away.
He would be conniving of me to do nothing, knowing what I know now. Don't you see?
No, I don't. I bloody well don't.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to get you going. I just wanted you to know, that's all. Well,
Yes?
mind how you go.
And you?
Dad, you know when my movie heroes were American? Do you remember when we used to be glued to the telly when I was a kid? Yeah? Well, I used to watch them go to the moon and walk on it. Christ, wasn't that bloody marvellous? Yeah, well, the world's changed, that's all. But I still believe that the man in the white hat always wins in the end, and I intend to prove it.
You do you?
Yes, sirree.
So, are we see? Please to stand up.
It's wonderful. I can hardly recognize myself.
This calls for a toast. Let's see. I brought the comrade colonel something else.
No, isn't that something? Alex.
Hmm?
Thank you.
No, please. It's for you to keep.
To Russia.
To Russia. Russia. I wish the comrade colonel a pleasant journey.
Thank you for all your help.
I'll see your friend safely off the premises. Don't drink all the vodka before I get back.
Trust me.
Let's look before we leave. All clear.
You see? You can't fault our security.
Safe journey. May I speak to Sir Adrian Chapel, please?
Speaking.
Chateau Direct Vignes, yes, Sir Adrian. I'm so sorry for being so long getting back to you. It appears your order was detained in bond, but I'm assured it'll be released very soon.
Thank you for letting me know.
of my better productions. They made a wonderful job of the furniture.
Well, they did indeed, Flecker. Well, well. Incidentally, what's happening to Dodgson's prison contact? The one who passed them the pills and so on.
He's having 10 years off his sentence. And then we're sending him to Northern Ireland.
You do take away with one hand what you give with the other.
Coming from you. I don't think you should find that actually displeasing.
Good God, Chapel. We'll never hear the end of it if the Americans find that out. Well done. Excellent, excellent.
He was a very good subject. And also it helped that he'd been to the flat to see his controller before.
Is it all on video?
Of course.
How good of you to come.
Good of you to ask me down.
First thing first, you like this, I believe?
Quite right.
Water? Ice?
Just as it comes.
Spoken like a Scotsman. There we are.
Your good health.
Ah, my dear fellow. Well, rather different from the last time you were down here.
Very.
Smell the Irish, besotted by racing. Bomb here and the country really would grind to a halt.
Sobering thought.
Come and mingle.
Sorry.
I agree with your solution, by the way.
It avoids the courts on the one hand, and on the other...
Quite. It used to be thought, and I was inclined to agree, that such mistakes were forgivable. Because unlike the enemy, we err on the side of decency and trust. When we pry, we do so blunderingly, and even our most hardened snoopers are given to thoughts of fair play. However, that's in the past. Now, with regard to Chapel, there have been talks with the Attorney General, and he has agreed. But since Blunt, those sort of people, senior people, have been very, very cagey. They don't want their old age ruined by some journalist writing a book or some prime minister making a statement so that they're publicly blown, lose their cane, all that.
Of course.
I mean, one can understand it. When it comes to Chapel, we are not, after all, dealing with the grocer. Immunity should mean immunity, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Let's go down and see the parade. My view is that we let him get on with it until we find out how much damage he has done and have him dead to rights, which we do not at the moment, legally. Then we turf out his Soviet contacts and give him the choice. Now, as for the other fellow, now he's at the grocer class. I propose we leave him to Flecker.
Flecker has a very creative bent.
Really is extraordinarily useful having the two of them in our sights at the same time. I think we have a knack for this sort of thing, don't you?
In the matter of Jones...
Oh, yes. I understand your man failed to read him aright.
Yeah, it would seem so. Although had the good friends been less precipitate or more deft.
Speculation.
The matter is, if that young man blows the whistle on it, this entire operation will have been much worse than pointless.
I hear you.
I'm looking to you to preserve the special relationship. Or what's left of it.
Sir Adrian Chappell will be presenting the owner and trainer of Sea Captain with a trophy, and a special trophy will be presented to the winning jockey in the winner's enclosure.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Can I have a word with you a moment, sir?
Yes, who are you?
I'm a police officer. I've got a bit of bad news.
What?
It's about your son, sir. Seems he fell off a roof. It's very bad news, I'm afraid, sir.
Are you all right?
Yes, thank you.
Is he your son? You formally identify him as Robert Arthur Jones?
Yes.
Thank you. This is all your son's gear in it.
It's very light.
That's all he had on him when we found him. It's been examined. He was dressed. The bed wasn't slept in. Did you see him often? Sir?
His bed wasn't slept in, you said?
Correct.
How do you know?
Well, from the scene of crime, officer.
Well, who let him in? The first thing I was told by your Inspector Brown on the Inspector Bourne on the phone this morning was that Bob was alone in the house over the weekend. The other two were away.
Well, my colleague has borrowed a ladder, went onto the roof and into the house that way.
I suppose these are cheaper than a cardboard box or something decent.
It's all there, sir, if you'd just like to sign for it.
Yeah. Where do I still sign?
Mr. Jones?
Yes?
Bill Pickett. I had an appointment to talk to your son. Very sorry to hear what happened.
Who are you?
The journalist.
I don't want to talk.
I wouldn't bother you, but...
Which paper?
Weekly. The Senator. Bob may have mentioned me.
No. Who did you say you are?
Bill Pickett.
The Senator?
That's right.
Prove it. Well, what do you want to talk to you about?
Bob?
Yeah, Bob.
I don't really know.
Don't fuck out of me. He's dead.
You're a lefty, aren't you?
What else?
You want to stir up the Dodgson business. That's it, isn't it? Now Bob's dead, you want to use him.
I don't need to use him to do that, I assure you.
How did he get in touch with you?
He telephoned me. I checked up on him and called him back.
What?
You don't exactly take it on trust when someone you've never heard of telephones you, says they work at GCHQ and they want to talk. I mean, there are laws. And things have been very jumpy since Brother Dodgson.
When was this?
Last week.
So why the delay? I mean, in you two getting together.
Bob said that what he wanted to discuss involved someone else. The other person didn't want to talk to me. He hoped to persuade him. That's the law.
No, it isn't. Why the appointment today?
He told me that he'd be in touch with the other person this weekend.
In touch?
Yeah. I wrote this to discuss with him. Look, I'll give you my telephone number. You might want to call me.
Not on your life. Who told you he was dead?
That one.
I'd like to thank you, Rose,
Why?
for clearing the place up.
I didn't. What makes you think
Somebody.
Mr. Jones.
Perhaps Mark.
Mr. Jones, you were in the Navy. Yes. So you'll understand about orders.
Oh, yes.
I'm a section leader. And I have to say this now, and then we'll all know where we stand. You must be very shocked. Believe me, it hasn't been easy at my end either.
In what way?
I can't discuss that. So, what I have to say is this. We have orders, Mark and I, not to discuss Bob's... what happened.
Orders?
Yes, particularly with relation to the press, but with everyone, really. So, if we can just observe that, Mr. Jones.
Even relatives? You can't talk to a father about his dead son? You can't say anything, even though it might be comforting? Do you know what I find difficult, Rose? Is why it is against the national interest for the press to print that you and Mark liked him. And that, although he tended to have 2 left feet and fall over the cat, and was a decent person with a good heart.
That's not absolutely fair. You're perfectly aware of the way the press twist things and make them up. We have our jobs and our futures too, you know.
Yes, I know. I can see you're really going to miss it.
Dare
dare you say that?
I'm sleeping here tonight. This is Bob's room. You can put a notice on his food cupboard and a label on his towel in the bathroom.
I don't understand. What was he doing out there?
Rescuing the cat. At least that's what everybody seems to want me to believe. Either that or he committed suicide.
Bob, too?
You must feel pretty bruised one way and another.
I thought you didn't like me.
I just thought you were bad news for Bob. I mean, married with a kid and everything. None of that seems to matter much now. We both lost him. Not that I'm not prejudiced, you understand. It's just that my prejudices don't always seem to stand up to actuality.
That's what Bob said.
He did?
Actually, what he said was, you weren't really the old stick in the mud you made yourself out to be.
That sounds like Bob. Is there something wrong with your telephone?
No, I don't think so.
They have put out the lights in the ordinary world.
What?
It was something Bob said.
Mr. Jones?
Yes, it's very good of you to see me.
Oh, What's the trouble that the coroner's officer couldn't deal with?
Just to clear my mind, I'd be very grateful if you would tell me... I'd be grateful if you could tell me whether your scene of the crime officer took away anything as evidence.
Is something missing? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I think so.
You think so?
I think my son's diaries for this year and last year, some letters written to him, and some books are missing.
Presumably because you knew they were in the room on Sunday last. You're definite about that, Mr. Jones?
No, Inspector. Was anything taken away?
Well, nothing was removed from the premises to my knowledge.
Yeah, I find it a bit difficult to sink in. Your men went through the house?
Yes.
Yeah. None of the beds had been slept in, and there was no evidence of anyone having broken in.
Correct.
Which leaves the security people.
Well, what security people?
Well, GCHQ, of course. You must have been in contact with them.
What we do is our business, Mr. Jones.
I'll remember that for the interview.
What interview?
The BBC phoned me.
Right. We informed your son's place of work. A sergeant interviewed some of his colleagues. We received full cooperation, and there was nothing unusual to report. I hope that puts your mind at rest.
How did he die?
Well, that's for the coroner to decide, sir.
How do you think he died, based on reports you received?
It was almost certainly an accident. But it could have been a suicide. There's no evidence either way, no witnesses.
There's me. Bob was the last person in the world to commit suicide.
Oh, people do it every day.
Your men took away nothing, to your knowledge. So there was no note, no letter. If my son had committed suicide, he would have said why. And there was the state of his room.
Well, what do you mean?
Tidy, really squared away. Someone else did that. Not Bob, never.
Well, with respect, sir, you've been watching too much television.
I'm sorry, I'm late.
What do you think of this wine, eh?
Thanks for coming.
How was it?
Infuriating. The inspector was too condescending by half. And there was another bloke there, plain clothes, never opened his mouth. I've asked Bill Pickett to join us.
Look here. You can see I was trying to get in there.
Oh, tough titty.
All I know is that since Dodgson, there have been 3 sudden deaths at GCHQ and Cheltenham in as many months. The last thing that I want to find out is that our security services had a hand in them. Why should they?
Do you know what was the most surprising thing about the CIA revelations? Their paranoia. People who spend their lives spying and telling lies are like mental patients. It's a form of flight from reality. And they're not answerable, and they know they're not. There's no reason for them not to overreact. And it won't do. They're completely incapable of distinguishing between dissent and treason. As far as they're concerned, anyone who rocks the boat is a threat. To what? Their idea of good order.
All right. The point is, what are we going to do?
Bob didn't tell you the name of this man that Mark put him onto.
He said, what I didn't know wouldn't hurt me or Tiffany.
But you went down to see this Mr. X, East Grinstead, the weekend before he called me.
And came back absolutely certain that our side wouldn't have thought twice about murdering Alan if it had suited them.
Presumably that's what he hoped to persuade this character to confirm to me. At which point, Bob falls off a roof.
When he was conveniently alone in the house.
Well, I'd better get on and find this Mr. X. There can't be that many dirty tricks men living in retirement in East Grinstead. Although, on second thoughts... You in touch?
Pickett, I want the truth.
Don't we all?
I am not interested in making political capital out of the death of my son.
If this story holds up, you might not be able to avoid it. In fact, with a bit of luck, might bring down the government. See you.
And I'm not out to change the system.
No, but we need someone with that kind of commitment. If we're right, what happened to Bob and Alan and us doesn't affect 98% of the population. But it could hit any one of them like a car crash. The least we can do is tell them the odds.
Let's just stay with the facts. The people who lived there, the police, the security services, all agree that there was no suspicion of anything except an accident or suicide.
Not suicide.
Okay. You said that's out of character. You're his father. You should know. In which case, Parche the coroner, the verdict has got to be a tragic accident. But one, just one, not very distinguished, politically motivated journalist is in there, trying to whoop it up into another GCHQ scandal. And what do? You cry murder.
There was his room.
For God's sake, Frank, couldn't your son have decided to clean up his own room just once in 28 years?
You may be right.
There's no maybe about it. Look, old love, I'm going to be based in your friendly neighborhood Sheraton Hotel for a bit, so if you feel like drowning your sorrows, just give me a bell, right?
Right.
Take it easy.
If you told the majority of people that a bloke called Jones was about to breach our security service, when he fell off a roof and was killed, they would say, serves him right. If you told him he'd been pushed, they'd say, what do you expect? And so would I, because up until now, I was part of that majority. I would have said, you don't sign on for something like that and then break your word.
And now?
I don't know. I don't have any powerful friends. I can't go to my lawyer or my MP. The verdict's already in. The only way I have of telling ordinary people is to go over the heads of that lot. And that, God help me, puts me in bed with a bastard like Bill Pickett.
Hello? Yes. Frank, it's Bill for you. He's found Mr. X.
He wouldn't give me the name over the phone in case it was bugged. But we're to meet him at the junction of the A4 and the A217.
You might as well take your time now, lads.
Move along, please, sir.
For as much as it has pleased Almighty God of his great mercy to take unto himself the soul of our dear brother, Robert Jones, we therefore commit his body to the ground, earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, in sure and certain faith of resurrection and eternal life through our Lord Jesus Christ, who shall change our vile body, that it may be like unto his glorious body, according to the mighty working, whereby he is able to subdue all things to himself.
never understood about revolutionaries. I do now. But I don't have the stomach for it. I don't know what else I could do, Bob. And that's the truth.
I was very relieved about the verdict, Mr. Jones.
Oh?
Sorry to be so conspiratorial. I mean, there's nothing to be conspiratorial about. But since Dodgson... Look, we were all told to do it after him. They said it helped keep people on the rails. And in my position, I mean, when they PV'd me, I kept something back. So when Bob... I told them he'd been asking questions about Alan Goodburn's suicide.
Well, you can't blame yourself for telling the truth.
No, of course not. I just sort of... Look, there's been a terrible atmosphere at work and every kind of rumor. I know I can't imagine how bad it must be for you. I just wanted to get it off my chest, and I'm really very sorry about everything.
Don't worry about it. I know you were Bob's friend and wouldn't let him down. I wouldn't let them bring in a verdict of suicide anyway.
I can't tell you what a relief it is.
You see, I think he was murdered.
Oh, Christ. No, that's impossible. I didn't mean to... Look, I better go.
Yes. Go and tell him about our chat, what I think.
No, I'd never do that, but I don't believe Bob was murdered.
Oh, yes, you do. You believed it when I said it. You felt it like I do. Why'd you feel like that, Mark?
Bob was like Dostoevsky's idiot. No help to anybody. All the same, I loved him. I'm not gay, but I loved him because he had this quality. I don't know why I betrayed him. I think the quality he had was to show you what you are. I don't know. If it was, I'm a sort of natural Judas. I did it in a dream, almost. I never meant to, right up to the moment that I knocked on the HEO's door. The same as now, I never meant to betray them to you.
You sent him to see someone, we know that. Who was it?
I can't say it. I can't say it to you.
You fine fruit knife. Who'd you send him to?
Come in. Get an eyeful. Huh? Thank God for the old expense account. Where would we be without it?
Where indeed?
Take your off. Sit down. What'll it be?
Vodka with anything, really. Tonic.
Right. Well, it's not the real thing, so we don't have to be too frugal, do we? You all right?
Yeah, fine.
Remember that time the old man went bananas? Oh. He came onto the main deck. He said to the Marine Corps... I was there. He said to the Marine Corporal, "Get that horse out of my cabin." He was a 2-bottle a day man. He was. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Nobody remembers any of that, do they? Career. By God. If we'd had the same publicity they gave the Falklands, eh? All those smart asses saying it wouldn't work, and then when it did, saying it shouldn't have happened. I mean, there we were, in Korea, flying piston engine aircraft against MiGs. How many pilots did we lose in those 2 years, eh? And that was just us. We did it, though.
Yes, we did, didn't we?
You were the best Carmen Miranda I ever saw.
And you were the best pilot I ever met.
No.
Fixed wing, as they say now. But definitely a natural. So cheers, old boy.
Cheers.
It's bite on a bullet time.
Yeah.
I'm finally beginning to get myself sorted out about old Bob. I've been a bit of a bore about it, I know, but I really miss the silly bucker.
Of course you do.
Oop. Time to pump ship. The old bladder's beginning to shrink lately.
You want to watch that? That's the first sign.
Oop.
Hold hard!
Ooh. I can't get over you doing the old James Bond.
I should be so lucky. No birds. Nothing stirred and not much shaken. Ooh.
Yeah.
That's my turn. That's right. Oh!
Oh!
Oh! Oh! Oh! Oh! Oh! The relief! Did you hear the one about the blind man out for a walk? The guide dog cocks its leg all over him, and the blind man stops and fishes out a dog biscuit. He's just about to offer it to the faithless hound when this Barbara Woodhouse character dashes across. Look here, she says, you can't reward the animal for doing that. Reward it, the man says. Reward it? I may be blind, but I'm not daft. I'm just trying to find out which end his head is so as I can kick his arse in. It's warm in there.
Yeah, here we are. 00 Charlie.
00 Charlie.
Bottoms up. Up, spirits.
Stand fast, the Holy Ghost. Jesus.
Do you want some tonic?
Tonic, yeah.
Tonic. Here we are. Here we are. There's some tonic.
Ice.
You want some ice with that?
Yeah.
There we are. There's some ice, darling. Cheers. Cheers.
Mm.
Oh, lovely.
Oh! Oh!
I keep thinking about that weekend. Bob alone in the house. He was my son. My son.
Oh, pal. Oh, pal. That's why I didn't want to get involved. I told him, I said, I don't want any part of it. But once you're in for life. They've got you by the short and curlies. You know how it is.
Yeah, I know.
And you weren't any help. Make it up, Bob was a timid sort of bloke.
So you tried to scare him off, eh?
Well, I knew I bloody could. Oh, all right, I said. Leave it to me, I said.
But because of what happened to Cynthia's husband, Bob was so shocked, he became even more suspicious.
You can imagine where that left me. You got us into this, Commander. You get us out of it, you bastards. Oh, yes, sir. No, sir. 3 bags full.
I still don't see why you had to kill him.
There's no reason for Mrs. Goodburn or the child to come to any harm, providing you're sensible.
You must understand that our special relationship with the Americans is at a low ebb. Our record in the matter of security has been quite appalling. 40 years of damage inflicted on the Alliance by Vassal, Blake, Blunt, Prime, Bettany, old Uncle Kim Philby, and the rest. Nonetheless, we are at the beck and call of the Americans because our national survival depends upon them. The so-called independent British deterrent is a meaningless indulgence to the past. The days when nuclear stalemate meant no nuclear war are long gone. Now nuclear war is expected and planned for. All that remains in question are its timing and extent. Such warning as we get will be from electronic espionage by GCHQ Cheltenham and its linked stations at home and abroad. The consequences were the Americans to deny us access to that giant spy machine are simply too awful to contemplate. I could justify a great deal in terms of the coming wrath. It is not, happily, my task to justify the sequence of events which resulted in your son's tragic death. I am merely authorized by Her Majesty's government to set the matter in its global context.
The Americans had information that led them to believe that Dodgson had two named associates involved with him at GCHQ Cheltenham. And they suspected there was a third man. Do you see now why we had to go along with that?
You're telling me that this whole thing was to prevent the Americans, our allies, from finding out that the real traitors were higher placed than Cage or Goodburn?
One of them, certainly.
It was the only chance we had to uncover him.
Well, have you?
Yes.
What did you do with him?
Left him in place until we can assess the damage he's done, and how most effectively to use him to embarrass the Russians.
When you'll do a deal with him so that he can go on drawing his pension and having tea with the Queen. And you expect me to shut up about the fact that my son, among other innocents, were expendable in this charade.
You don't have any alternative, Jones.
What will you do? Arrange another accident?
It won't be necessary. Any attempt on your part to publish or broadcast, expose, sue, litigate on the basis of what you know or may surmise will simply never see the light of day.
I have killed people before. And when my best friend was shot down over Korea, I also did it with pleasure. And if I were to kill you, the publicity surrounding my trial...
Cases involving national security are held in camera. If you're thinking of other ways of drawing public attention to yourself, don't bother. We would merely arrange for you to be taken into psychiatric care. Breakdown following your son's tragic accident. As for Mrs. Goodburn, well, you wouldn't be here if you didn't realize that the child makes her much more vulnerable than you are.
phone call. Anonymous, not polite, but I've already lost 2 people that I loved. I couldn't bear it if anything would happen to Tiffany. Or you come to that.
I never ever thought I'd be beaten. Not in my ordinary life. I always knew I'd have to fight, but I always reckoned I'd win. That's the worst part of it. I let you down. You and Bob.
What do you want, Frank?
I'll tell you what I want.
Do come in.
Can I offer you a drink? I expect you'd like a beer. I may not be able to accommodate you there. But gin or whiskey?
No, thank you.
Oh, you don't drink while on duty. Very laudable, I'm sure. Here.
I don't get it.
Who are you?
My son was killed because of you.
You're clearly deranged.
He got too close to finding out that our security people were letting the Americans eliminate stooges so that they could get a line on the real villain, you.
If that's the case, why haven't I been arrested?
Because they wanted you to stay in place until they found out enough to make you an offer you couldn't refuse.
But if you're right, there's nothing you can do about it.
Not a lot. They made that clear. Just tell me. I mean, my son was killed because of you. I don't understand how someone like you, with everything going for you, could become a traitor.
I can hardly be expected to explain my thought processes to someone of your intellectual caliber.
Oh, I thought the whole point was that you were supposed to be on the side of the workers.
Very well. I had an average upper-class education, genuinely of the right. Churchill was my hero. I went up to Oxford and joined the civil service as a high flyer, content with Britain's part in the world.
So what happened?
Nothing. By which I mean there was no blinding flash of revelation. Just gradually I became aware how insignificant we were. The world had to choose between the 2 superpowers. I chose Russia. It wasn't a moral judgment initially, more an aesthetic one. It took the Suez affair to bring home the total futility of the British position. We tried, and failed humiliatingly, to halt the march of progress when we had no alternative to offer. Paradoxically, it was the way in which the Americans, our allies, sabotaged that desperate venture to confirm my commitment to the other camp. Nothing that has happened since has caused me to change it. Our own political posturing is neither moral nor relevant. As for America, the standard bearer of the West, she's not simply in decline, she's dying from a combination of greed, paranoia, and social injustice. And her death throes drive her to ever more dangerous feats of brinkmanship, both in Europe, Central America, and in space.
If you really believe all that, why don't you go and live in bloody Russia?
I knew I was wasting my time.
I'll tell you why. Because your sort always manages to have its cake and eat it. I mean, look at this place.
Any attempt on your part to publish, broadcast, expose, sue, or litigate will simply never see the light of day.
Unto God's gracious mercy and protection we commit you. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace, both now and evermore. Amen.